Hello, guys and gals, and this is episode 59. Yeah, 59. 59 of Vlog Friday. So, or as I call it, Vlog Friday. So, anyways, um, the past few vlogs, I haven't gone over the 7 points here, and that's basically because I've had important things to say. And, not that these points aren't important, it's just that I went over them at least 55 times before. And that doesn't mean they're any less important. It just means that I found something a little bit more important to talk about. Um, so let's see. I probably won't get to the 7 points again this time. And again, comment below if you do like the 7 points and when I go over them. But anyways, I always try to add new perspective to those, but I have something different to talk about this time. Um, Whenever there's a situation, it doesn't really matter on the situation. There's always several ways. There's always two ways to go about it. And I guess that in by society standards, there's a right way and a wrong way. Now, we're gonna go over both ways because just because. Anyways, we're gonna talk about the tongue, and basically, when it comes to a situation, there are basically two things the tongue can do. The tongue can either build people up or tear people down. Now, in society, it's a lot easier, and I mean it's human nature, and it's also a lot easier to basically take the low road and tear people down. I mean, if you're really upset, then it's just natural to want to retaliate with your tongue. And then again, there is the moral high road where you basically hold your tongue and build people up. So basically, there is the pacifist route, and I'm not going to use the G word on this channel, but there is the destructive route that the tongue can take. Now, I've yet to find a situation where the moral high road hasn't worked, I guess. I always try to build people up. But, yeah, so there's always the pacifist or the high road or the more destructive or the low road. Anyways, basically, theoretically speaking, the tongue would be one of the most one of the most powerful parts of the body. Basically, with words, you can really hurt people. And, so yeah. Basically, with the tongue, you can inflict emotional and psychological trauma, or you can actually heal. You can use your tongue to heal or, inflict trauma. That basically would cut deeper, trauma that would cut deeper than like any sword ever could. But yeah. And it's just really easy to give in to those impulses. So yeah, it's kind of difficult to talk about that. But and it's not easy. I'll admit that. It's really not easy. Because like I say, your first impulse is to retaliate. If somebody hurts you, then it's just second nature to retaliate. And so yeah. But it is far nobler to take the moral high road, which of course the more difficult path is usually the best, which it doesn't really take much thought to tear into someone verbally that I don't know has done something wrong. And that can go for other things too. What I find is that people who put other people down tend to be unhappy themselves. So they abuse other people to make themselves feel good. Which, once you realize that, it's kind of tragic, really. That's usually the case with bullying and stuff like that. So, anyways, the situation is, let's see, something like this. Typically, people who rely heavily on insults or putting people down usually indicates maybe insecurity. I would go as far as to say insecurity. Again, these are always just my opinions. I'm not a licensed psychologist, though I did take 2 years of psychology in high school. Not high school, college. Um, Also a semester of sociology and uh, a semester of botany. But anyways, one of my favorite courses was psychology. And basically, the reason I took that class was basically like, if I could figure out what was wrong with me, then maybe I could basically, move on. But anyways, what's difficult is sometimes understanding, because there are just some people that are abrasive to be around, or people that are always putting other people down. I think that it's also kind of a defense mechanism, maybe so we don't have to face our own faults. We can point out other people's. Now, I would never condone, even in the slightest, to stay in an abusive relationship, because no one, it's never worth that. I mean, you were never meant as a person to be abused by another person, because that basically takes away your rights as a person. So if you are in an abusive relationship, seek help or counseling, or get out if they are really, really physically or emotionally abusive, because I would never condone any kind of abuse to anybody. People are probably one of the most valuable resources on the planet, and everyone is unique. So abusing one person is like abusing a unique individual, and basically abuse is a crime. So now I've realized that it's not. Sometimes there are people that have mental illnesses and they can't really help it if they're abusive. I get that, and there are people who basically stick with them because they don't know what's happening. But so I guess that might be an exception to the rule, I suppose. But you really shouldn't be in an abusive relationship if it's, especially, one of the most insidious kinds of relationships is one where there is emotional or verbal abuse, because that's probably the worst abuse there is, because it doesn't exactly inflict physical scars on a person, but it scars their soul, and so it's just devastating. The case is also true with children if they're in, not necessarily if they're abused emotionally or verbally. Sometimes just if someone they love is abused, then it can be just as devastating. Or if the parents fight all the time. Um, I know that in my family, my immediate family, my mom was a brittle. I almost said brutal. Well, she was kind of that too, but was a brittle diabetic. So she didn't always have control of her emotions, and so she was sometimes emotionally and verbally abusive, not to me, but to my dad. And so that kind of took a toll on me. So I was kind of relieved when they finally divorced after enduring 30 years of hell. But anyways, and that was for the best. Like I say, I never condone people stay in an abusive relationship, regardless of what is said in other sources. Sometimes marriages aren't meant to work, and I will say that if you are from a broken home, and I know there's lots of people out there that are. I mean, I don't think there's like I think that right now, especially, that unbroken homes are basically very, very rare. I mean, on the surface, it might seem like someone is in a perfectly perfect home, but you can't really know what's going on behind the scenes. Anyways, just because you came from a broken home doesn't mean that you're forever doomed to repeat the cycle. Um, Quite the opposite, really, because everyone has the infinite potential to improve and get better, um, make a better life. Um, I know that there are cycles, what I call cycles, um, and maybe, and I see this a lot. If you grow up in a house where somebody smokes, then your kids are really like or more likely to smoke, and so it perpetuates the cycle. Um, Also, the same thing with the use of liquor and alcohol, and maybe even drug abuse, um, because basically children pick up from it by example. It's used to be do as I say, not do as I do. I think was the saying. And so basically, or monkey see, monkey do, basically, is another good example of that. Children basically learn everything, well, 95% of what they learn from example. So if you're not setting an example for your children, then they're picking up the cues from you. And I see this a lot. I really do. Sometimes people wonder, how their kids go wrong and stuff like that. And you can be like the perfect parent, and your kids will still turn out to be maybe deviants or stuff like that. And it isn't just the parents. There's other there. It's the school peers, um, friends, TV to a certain extent. Um, it's the content that they consume, online content, YouTube, all that stuff, all molds someone into who they are. I won't go the route of violent video games because I don't believe that violent video games actually. I think that was just people trying to scapegoat the video game industry, with saying, "Oh, well, Doom is violent, and just because someone played Doom, they shot up a school." That isn't exactly true because there's other social stressors and stuff like that. So I will never really blame video games for people committing crimes. I mean, there's like GTA where people go out and steal cars and stuff, but just because someone plays that, doesn't mean they're going to go out and beat someone up and take their car. That happened in Family Guy, but that was as a joke. But anyways, so there's always that. It isn't everything really isn't on the parents, but I am pointing out that children learn by example, which is also where children sometimes get their respect for people. Um, there was I've mentioned it before. I guess I'll bring it up again. It was a year or two back, actually, and the Dairy Dip, which is our local one of our local restaurants, was open, and there were a bunch of people there from a funeral, and so it was people I didn't realize. Um, and so I was in there. I had known that the funeral was going on. I didn't realize that people were going to be there or anything like that. But one of the people was let's see, post-operative, I believe, transgender. But a lot of the people in the family didn't really like them and would outright tease them. So I mean, these kids were brutal, and they were only like 11 or 12 or something. So I could tell they were brought up in a homophobic relationship, a home. So, anyways, so I went there, just to order. I don't think I ordered ahead because this was previous to COVID, and you didn't have to order ahead or anything. And I would just go in there every so often and get a milkshake or something. I don't even remember what I bought, but I don't know, it was like two or three of these kids, and you could tell that just by what they said. Anyways, I have long hair. It's about to the, not quite the middle of my back, or anything like that. So, anyways, and these kids, they started to lay into me a little bit, asking if I was gay or something like that, or if I, was a girl or anything like that. And I just found it to be really disrespectful, so I kind of ignored them. And I basically talked to this person who was post-operative trans, and just told them that I really admired what they were doing because they were being themselves, They weren't conforming to society standards and stuff like that. But I just found it kind of off-putting. And, you can just tell when someone is brought up in a homophobic home. Stuff like that. And it's still difficult to talk about that moment. Because, I'm not used to people, tearing into me about my hair and stuff like that. Because I'm not really closeted about, who I am or anything like that. I'm not going to change who I am just because what people think. And I won't deny that they weren't wrong, but it's just it was just something that always stuck with me. Not that I mind being persecution. I mean, I don't really care. People can think about me however they like. It's just you can just tell sometimes. I remember another time when I was there. This is completely off the cuff, and this is probably I was completely off with this, but as you can see, my hand is shaking. I'm sorry about that. I used to spend quite a bit of time in the Dairy Depot, just picking things up, and I would pick up conversations. And there was a family there I didn't recognize. Now, they were a family that actually prayed at the table, which you don't really see that very often. I mean, we do, but I mean, I think they were the only other person, only other family I ever saw, pray in a public restaurant. Which is cool because, I mean, hey. But anyways, then they were talking about it, and the kids were like 11 or 12, and in my opinion, they weren't really old enough to actually see that movie. And then, I don't know, the kids are like, oh, let's go home and watch it, which is an R-rated horror movie, and I'm thinking, okay, are these people actually Christians if they let their children watch horror movies when they're not quite the age to watch horror movies? And again, that's just an assumption, and I don't like to make assumptions. So that was just something that was completely unrelated. But anyways, it looks like we've been recording for quite some time. I do need to make this go live by 3 o'clock, which is still a long ways off, but that's fine. Anyways, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the tongue? Do you build people up? Do you tear people down? I mean, you can't really build people up all the time because, you lose your temper and stuff like that. So I'm not saying that you do it all the time. But yeah, next time you are in a confrontational situation, try and take the pacifist or use your tongue to build people up, not tear them down. Anyways, if you like this content and it helped you, then make sure you like and subscribe, ring the bell so I upload. Also, if you want to support me in any way, if you want to join the Discord server, all the information will be in the description below. And as always, you're loved, and thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.